welcome back to another episode of Popcorn Podcast with Leigh and Tim.
Good morning.
Good morning. Today we're talking about the two biggest films out on August 1st, which were The Fast and the Furious, the action-packed Fast and the Furious Hobbs and Shaw film.
Yes, spin-off of the franchise.
And Ophelia, a reimagining of Shakespeare's Hamlet.
So let's kick it off.
Right, here we go. Shall we start with Fast and the Furious, Hobbs and Shaw?
Yeah, let's just go. Let's just deep dive into this.
Tim and I usually do this thing where we see the films together, but we don't discuss them straight afterwards. We save it for the podcast.
I just don't want to talk to you.
But I could see your face. I can guess what you thought about it for your face.
And
but tell me,
what was my face telling you?
Your face was very deadpan. It was very unimpressed.
Look, we both went into this movie knowing what to expect to a certain extent. I think that it was going to be high octane action. It was going to be crazy. It was going to be fun. All those things, which in principle it was. But Leigh's got a note here that just says plot line, and I said to her, "Nothing else? Like, could you not find one, or is it just a talking point?" Well, there wasn't really much of a one. I think. And we'll keep this spoiler free because there was some pretty cool stuff that happened in this movie.
Yeah.
But in terms of pacing and where characters ended up, it really didn't make sense. So the sister, Jason Statham's sister.
Played by Vanessa Kirby.
She's great. Like her career is so like left, right. She does things all like so many different roles and from period dramas to
and
action.
Knocks it out of the park.
Yeah, she's a great screen presence. She was actually probably the best thing about the movie. Things that happened to her, I don't know how to explain. Like when she kept on getting captured, release, and I was wondering how that just kept happening. Because it just, no one else, there seemed to just be no peripheral vision of any other characters or circumstance or consequence. It was just Hobbs, Shaw and her in all these really controlled, safe, secure environments, but somehow it was like, yeah, fuck it, let's just get out of here. Anyway, how she ended up in her situation didn't make sense, why she couldn't explain herself, why she wasn't given the opportunity to explain herself. Would have meant we wouldn't have had a movie, but it was just hard to it was a hard pill to swallow because I really didn't know what was going on.
On the flip side...
Go on.
I'm going to drop a bomb and say I absolutely enjoyed it. I had
I'm
a great
not surprised.
time. I had a great time. And normally I don't enjoy the Fast and the Furious films. I'm a little bit over them. The first couple I enjoyed, but the last 6 or whatever I was really not into. So I was very surprised that I found this so entertaining.
Right.
But all those things you're saying are absolutely correct. It's absolutely ridiculous. The plot is absolutely ridiculous.
And the plot disappears in the first act.
Yeah. But you need to switch off and just enjoy the ride.
And absolutely.
As The Rock says, just enjoy it.
We shared a few glances, groans, eye rolls during the movie. Chuckles. A lot of chuckles, actually. But it was kind of like, all right, like it knew the type of movie it was making and you just had to go with it. Like, I agree with you there. Was this a great movie? No. Was it a fun action romp with great banter between Dwayne and Jason? Yes. So I think it will find a big audience. They're very loved characters within the fabric of the Fast and Furious franchise, and this is the first spin-off of that franchise as well. So it had a lot to prove. Yeah. But heck, they went big. In this movie.
And Jason Statham and The Rock have great chemistry. They have that great banter between them. It's sort of like a buddy cop feel. I did think they overplayed that a little bit sometimes. There were a lot of scenes where it was just close-ups of their faces trading insults at each other, which people love, but there was a lot of it in the movie.
Do you think, because these guys were part of an ensemble cast in the franchise, that snackable banter spread out thin across the 2-hour movie is probably where... Do you think that's where it should continue to live rather than having their own movie where that's just constantly churning?
It just felt a little far-fetched. I say far-fetched. The whole movie was far-fetched. But it felt very far-fetched that these two were called upon to save the world. Because in terms of the storyline, I thought it had similarities to like a James Bond storyline in the sense that Fast and the Furious is about stopping local crime syndicates and they get bigger and a bit international in the later movies, but generally it's not a worldwide save the world kind of situation, whereas in this one it was very much they have to save the world from a tech-obsessed crime syndicate, I guess.
Yeah, and with like this superhuman who...
Played by Idris Elba.
Oh, and brilliantly, actually. I completely forgot about. He is a great action star, and every time I saw him in the movie, I was thinking, yes, Bond. Like,
you wanted
I know, obviously he'd tone it down a little bit,
yeah,
but he just has like that physicality about him, and he's so intense, I guess.
And
but his
suave.
character, yeah, and suave, totally. His character was fucking bonkers, though. Like, he was a superhuman. Is that something that happens in the Fast and Furious franchise?
See, again,
this is why you think it's more of a Bond, like...
Yeah, they took it in a completely different direction to the Fast and Furious franchise. And I guess Fast and Furious is about making family out of your crew. This one was more about literally going back to your roots and rebuilding your blood family. So the Rock or Hobbs goes back to Samoa, which is actually Hawaii, standing in for Samoa.
Yeah, it was so obviously Hawaii.
And he goes back home and has to rebuild his relationships with his family and get them to help him. And then also Deckard Shaw, Jason Statham, has to rebuild his relationship with his sister. We also get a cameo from Helen Mirren, which, I don't think that's a spoiler. Obviously, she plays his mother.
His mother, yeah. She's always great.
There are a couple of cameos which we're not going to spoil for you.
No, because they're so good. Well, sorry, one in particular.
I was going to say the cameos felt very self-indulgent.
Oh, well, yeah.
There are a few people that pop up in this film. You'll get a kick out of it, for sure. 3. I believe there was 3.
Who's the third one?
We can't
I'm
say.
trying to squeeze it out of you.
We can't say. There's 3 that pop up, and... really, they have nothing to do with the film, but they're very self-indulgent for The Rock. He's obviously squeezed them in there for
sure.
Yeah,
and I wonder if it actually adds a bit of light and shade for the next movies in the franchise. Like, are they going to be in Fast and Furious 9, which they're currently filming? Like, are they going to pop up in there as established characters now?
No, I don't think so. I feel like they felt a bit pointless. They were
pointless.
They were frivolous.
Completely pointless. But I actually quite enjoyed them because it just added something different.
Yeah. Overall, this film is exciting, action-packed, ridiculous, over the top, really over the top. But I found it entertaining.
Do you feel like it was much about the cars? I mean, the McLaren featured quite strongly. So they really did change the tone of what is, inverted commas, a Fast and Furious spin-off. Yes,
this felt more... as I said, like a James Bond film. It's more about the people and the action that they were going through. There was a lot less impressive stunts with cars, I thought. Or the cars themselves doing impressive things. It was more like
the final act.
But even then,
the helicopter, that was.
But even then,
ridiculous.
But even then, that was more about The Rock and a bit of clever driving rather than a car doing something really tricky and impressive.
Yeah, fair call. I feel like even though the action was good, but heck, some of it was just ridiculous. Like them jumping out of the building. That's in the trailer, so that's not a spoiler. Joke. Yeah, they jump out of a building and run down the side of the building. Yeah, but it's more than just like what they do in the air. Like, it's like, fuck me. But anyway, that kind of set you up going, okay, we're going to see more of this sort of stuff. And we did. Yes, we did. It was over the top, action-packed, just... switch off your brain and enjoy the ride fun. Definitely. I gave it 3 popcorn kernels. Okay. What did you think? I'm going to give it 2.5 popcorn kernels. Sounds about right. Put my case forward. Sounds about right. Another one I saw this week, which is also out on August 1st, is Ophelia, which is a reframed story of Shakespeare's Hamlet, told from the perspective of his lover Ophelia, played by Daisy Ridley. It also stars Naomi Watts as the vain Queen Gertrude, Hamlet's mother. George Mackay as Hamlet, who we're going to see in this upcoming 1917 film, which we'll talk about later. Oh, yeah. And he's also in the True History of the Kelly Gang, which is underway at the moment. It's an Aussie film. He's going to be playing Ned Kelly. Oh, wow. Yeah. And then we also had Clive Owen as Claudius. Great cast. Yeah, great cast. And it was a very enjoyable movie. It was very well done. It had great music, which added a bit of a modern edge to it. It was sort of modernised. The language was a little bit modernised. Still had Shakespeare's vernacular in there, but it's brought into the 21st century, if you will. And that's a great thing about Shakespeare, is that those things happen with his writing and his text, where they're open to creative interpretation and license. And it's timeless. So Daisy Ridley was delightful as Ophelia, and it was really interesting the way they focused on her story, which you wouldn't really know much about. She was Hamlet's lover and also Queen Gertrude's lady-in-waiting. And
it's not even about how she sees the events of Hamlet, if that makes sense. It's really very much her story, which I loved. It was like a feminist retelling, and the sort of egotistical battles that are synonymous with Hamlet, where he's, you know, fighting his evil uncle for the crown and all that kind of thing, really took a back seat. They were there, and you got to see them and feel them and
because you needed
see
that
bits
context,
of them. Right? Yeah, you need the context, but it was very much her story, and I think that was just so great for anyone who's ever felt like a footnote in someone else's story. It was a really great film. I really enjoyed it. Daisy Ridley was delightful. She was just the right mix of a young woman coming of age and an intelligent, mature feminist for the era without being out of place, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it was really, really great, and I gave it 3.5 popcorn kernels.
Oh, that's good.
So get out there and see it. Excellent.
Shall we dive into some movie news?
Yes.
So thanks for listening to our Lion King podcast. That's actually been our most successful one.
Episode, yeah.
So thank you everyone for listening. That's great. It's kicking a lot of goals. So it had a huge $185 million North American opening, and it had made $41 million in Australia in its
just
first
2 weeks.
2 weeks, which is crazy. And I made a call on the podcast saying it wouldn't cost $1 billion. It's already done it, like a week ago. It's made more money than Spider-Man Far From Home and Toy Story 4 in a very, very short period of time.
As I said, you know, the critics don't love it, but the audiences do.
They do.
It's just enjoyable.
And they keep coming back. So, you know, it is what it is. I thought word of mouth would have impacted it, but I think the IP is too strong with The Lion King.
Disney cannot be stopped.
Disney cannot. No, they can't be stopped. Like this year especially.
Yeah.
We're only in August, and they've made more money this year than any other year, I'm pretty sure. It's really exciting news about bringing big budget films to Australia.
Yes, New South Wales in particular.
Yeah. So, and we'll go into a little bit of a list later on, but Thor, Love and Thunder, which was one of the Marvel Phase 4 movies announced at Comic-Con, will film in New South Wales, in Sydney actually, at Fox Studios.
Very exciting.
And you were saying how only recently you'd like to see a resurgence with Fox Studios.
Yeah.
Because it's such a great facility.
Yeah.
And it had kind of slummed a little bit.
It was an amazing initiative that I think Paul Keating had put into motion. And
he loved the arts.
And it did really well to begin with, and we had Star Wars filmed there and Superman, but it just sort of petered off.
Yeah.
So this is really exciting because Ragnarok was filmed in Queensland, and now we've just snatched it out of the Queenslanders' hands.
It's like a state of origin of film.
Yeah, it's a big coup. And and also the other big news that was announced at Comic-Con is that Natalie Portman is going to be returning as Jane.
Yeah.
And she's likely going to be taking up the hammer.
Yeah, as
Lady Thor.
Lady Thor. Which is insane because her character, the love interest of Thor, is kind of just been kind of pushed aside for a long time, since Thor 2, and she kind of was weaved back into Endgame, but through stock footage and whatnot.
There was a little bit of behind the scenes gossip that she wasn't returning for certain creative reasons and monetary reasons, but it's great that they can get her back in now.
Yeah, and in a really big way. So let's see how they weave that story and bring her back into the fold of Marvel. Or totally here for that.
And what's the other film that's going to be filmed here in Sydney from the Marvel Phase 4?
So we'll also have Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings.
Which is great.
Filmed in Sydney as well, New South Wales. So that's two big Marvel Phase 4. So it'll create tens of millions of dollars for the local economy, lots of jobs, like hundreds of jobs. So that's really, really good for our industry down under.
Yeah. And speaking of Avengers, Endgame has become the highest grossing film of all time. It passed Avatar.
There was a moment there where it was like a bee's dick away from Avatar. But yeah, it took over. And they held off announcing that until Comic-Con. And it was a pretty big thing to say, and then go into Marvel Phase 4. So yeah, hats off. It is deserved. There has not been a film event like that ever. Will there ever be? Well, I always thought Avatar's number was unattainable ever again. I don't even know how it got to that number, to be honest. It was just a film that kept on giving,
and
kept on going.
We have more Avatar films coming, but to be honest, I don't think they're going to match the level of the first one.
I don't think so. I agree. But we'll see. We might be completely blown away by Avatar 2, 3, 4 and 5. Just watch this space.
It's a bit much. Sticking with the superheroes, Tom Hardy has indicated on his Instagram that Andy Serkis may be directing Venom 2.
Yeah, which is cool.
I'm surprised they're going ahead with Venom 2, to be honest. Venom wasn't super well received.
But it made a super lot of money.
Yes, of course. There's always a great divide between critical acclaim and what audiences want to see.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's very exciting because Andy Serkis is a great director. He's also a great character actor, and I think he just brings something really unique to those kind of films.
I wonder if he'll star in the movie because he's known to do both.
Yeah.
Which I love.
Motion capture, alien.
Yeah. We'll keep an eye out on that. We'll report back. This piece of news is something that has been discussed for over a decade, like 12 years since the first Simpsons movie came out in 2007. So Matt Groening, who is the creator of The Simpsons, he did confirm that there will be a second Simpsons movie and revealed that the first one almost killed the show as it used all the same writers and animators and voice actors who were also working on creating episodes and the TV show at the same time. The movie was well received. It made enough money, but it seems like this could be the main reason why it's been so long. Because it did almost like derail the whole Simpsons franchise. Yeah. But he's kind of bringing this up around the context that now Disney own 20th Century Fox. So I'm sure that there's Disney love their IP. Now they own one of the biggest.
Yeah, he's got more resources to get it. He's got more resources to get it done.
So I think if it's going to happen, it will happen now and probably sooner than we think. So we'll see. And I reckon it should be a way that the TV show comes to an end.
You think? You ready for it to end?
Although it should play a part in the end, I think it should end as a TV episode, not in a movie, because it needs to really understand where its roots were, and it was on the TV, not the film. I
don't think we're going to see the end of The Simpsons anytime soon, to be honest. No.
Jeez. Okay.
So I was really fascinated by this piece of news about Kill Bill Volume 3. There was a bit of behind-the-scenes Barney between Uma Thurman and Quentin Tarantino based on the first two films. It's come out recently that she felt unsafe in a working environment because she had an accident in one of the cars.
And they released the video of the car accident. It's pretty intense.
I'm not sure where their relationship sits now, but maybe they'll be happy to work together again.
Yeah, I think so. They're both very vocal artists, and I'm sure they'll work it out. But I think it was how the whole situation was dealt with on the set, I believe. Yeah. Is that correct?
Yeah. And he has apologised, I think.
Yeah, he has. And just to round off the movie news before we dig into Marvel Phase 4, there has been another injury on a film set, this time on Fast and Furious 9 in the UK, and they halted production. So I'm pretty sure they've kicked it back on now. Yeah. But, I mean, we've reported...
It's Vin Diesel's stunt double, but he's in an induced coma.
Oh, shit.
Quite serious.
Oh, that is really serious. Oh, my goodness. I mean, they take so much care, stunt coordinators and everything, but things do naturally go wrong. Yeah. And you only need to look at movies to realise that things could seriously go wrong.
So let's briefly touch on the Marvel Phase 4 announcements. A week or two ago at Comic-Con, but we've got to address it.
Yeah, totally. I think it's definitely worth mentioning. We won't touch on the TV shows, although it is to note that those TV shows will be weaved into the narrative of the films, and they sometimes will...
They're a big part of Phase 4.
Big part of Phase 4 in continuing stories of certain characters. Yeah. We're going to have a Black Widow movie. I'm just going to list them off. Black Widow in May 2020. We're going to have an Eternals movie at the end of 2020, November. Then we come into 2021 with Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, which is meant to have the real Mandarin in there because there was a lot of controversy about the fake Mandarin that was in Iron Man 3. And we will also have a Doctor Strange sequel, and the title really intrigues me. It's Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
And Wanda's going to be popping up in there.
Yeah, played by Elizabeth Olsen. So her WandaVision TV show will kind of bleed into that Doctor Strange film, whether it be immediately after the events of that or whatever. We'll just have to wait to find out. And we've already discussed Thor: Love and Thunder, which will round out Phase 4, come out in November 2021. It's quite a short phase. It's 2 years. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 movies.
Black Panther is also going to be in there somewhere.
Yeah, we don't really know. They've announced Black Panther. They're saying Fantastic Four are coming. Captain Marvel 2. Whether or not they slot them over the next 2 years or they'll be part of Phase 5, we don't really know.
I hope we get Captain Marvel sooner than later because she's very underutilised.
Very underutilised, especially after Endgame. It was a little bit of a thud in what we were expecting her to contribute. But anyway, so there's a lot of movies to get excited about, a lot of new stuff, a few sequels in there. We are ready.
Let's jump into the trailers that came out over the last week. This one is really quirky and really weird. Jojo Rabbit from Taika Waititi.
Isn't it a fun trailer?
It looked really fun, but also very, very strange. It's written and directed by Taika Waititi, and it's starring Scarlett Johansson, Sam Rockwell, Rebel Wilson. Like, what a cast.
Amazing.
And it's about a boy during World War II who has Adolf Hitler as his imaginary friend, played by Waititi.
Brilliantly.
And it's about him having his belief systems challenged when he finds out that his mother, played by Scarlett Johansson, has actually been hiding a Jewish girl. I'm just fascinated by what this is. The trailer looks bonkers.
It does look bonkers. It kind of looks a little bit like Wes Anderson in a way.
Maybe, yeah.
But Taika Waititi has his own flavour and his comedy is very, very funny and very oddball. And I think that little scene with him by the tree, at the end of the trailer as Adolf, like, it's just going to be something to enjoy, I reckon. Yeah. This movie's going to be great. And when's it out?
This is out on Boxing Day this year. And then we had a trailer for 1917, which has... The plotline hasn't really been widely discussed for this film, but it's a Sam Mendes movie set in World War One. There's a lot of World War One, World War Two movies coming out.
Yeah.
That might be the next theme.
There's always been...
It goes in waves.
There's so many stories to tell within the two world wars, so we're definitely not going to see them taper off. Yeah. As long as they bring something fresh to it.
Yeah, so not much has been revealed in ways of details about the film, but it co-stars Colin Firth. It's coming out in January next year.
The trailer reminded me of Dunkirk.
Right.
Because it had the ticking clock or something like that, and how the trailer was paced. Yeah. And it just felt very familiar, and I was like, that's Dunkirk's trailer. Also similar to The Kingsman, in a way.
The new Kingsman.
Yeah,
not the other.
No, not the other ones, because that's set in World War One. But yeah.
We also got a trailer for A Beautiful Day in the Neighbourhood, which is about the friendship between children's entertainer Fred Rogers, Mr. Rogers, and a journalist that he befriends and helps. It's a feel-good movie starring Tom Hanks, and I just love anything Tom Hanks is in, so I think it's going to be really good.
I just want to, give him a hug after watching that trailer.
Uncle Tom.
He's such a likeable man, Tom Hanks, and to play a character like this who was such a beloved man as well and had such an impact in people's lives in childhood. This should be a really beautiful biopic. Zombieland 2, Double Tap, a sequel to Zombieland, which was out a decade ago, which blows my mind.
We've been waiting 10 years for this.
I didn't feel much from this trailer.
Really?
I just didn't really dig it or really understand
how it's going to further the storyline.
Yeah, like, what's happened? Clearly it will have to be 10 years later because Abigail Breslin was a girl in the first one and now she's a young woman. So it can't be 2 years later or whatever. Yeah, I don't know. I did like Zombieland. This is dangerous territory for me when you have such a great standalone comedy and then, 10 years later they churn out a sequel.
And the chemistry of the cast was so good at the time.
Brilliant.
Can they recreate it again?
Yeah.
What I found really funny though and really interesting is that Bill Murray is billed again in this.
Oh.
Which is really interesting because, spoiler alert, in the first one, they kill him.
Yeah.
Bill Murray playing himself.
One of the best cameos of all time, by the way.
Yeah.
So great.
So it's interesting that he's actually billed to be in this film again.
Maybe a flashback.
I'm really curious to see.
All right, well, I did not know that. Now maybe I am a little bit more excited. What have we got coming next week? So August 8th, a few movies, a horror thriller, I guess, Midsummer, which is about a group of friends who head out to Sweden for a festival of some kind. It looks really creepy AF and things go wrong. It's quite a long movie as well, which horrors, I don't know, because It Chapter 2 is now going to be 2 hours and 45 minutes. I don't really know if that genre can hold you and suspense for that long.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I'm hearing mixed reviews about Midsummer at the moment, but
you're going to go see it next week?
I'm going to go see it next week anyway, so I'll let you know what I thought.
Also out next week is a couple of Aussie films. Danger Close, The Battle of Long Tan, which is based on a real bloody battle from the Vietnam War. It stars Richard Roxburgh, Travis Fimmel, and it's directed by Kriv Stenders of Red Dog fame. So this should be really good because it's quality Australian cast, quality Australian filmmakers. Another quality Aussie film is Palm Beach, which has the veterans of the Australian film industry starring in it, which is amazing. Sam Neill, Brian Brown, Jacqueline McKenzie, Greta Scacchi.
I've caught a bit of their Sam Neill and Brian Brown's interviews. And so it's based on Brian, like a holiday Brian Brown went on. And it's kind of looking into the lives of older Australians and how they think that they don't have a place and what they're dealing with and all that sort of stuff. You know, having a purpose in the world when you retire and all those things. And Sam Neill, I encourage everyone to follow that man on Instagram. He is a bloody legend. He is so funny, so weird and wonderful. And he was on Have You Been Paying Attention on Channel 10 this week. And he's just grinning from ear to ear. He's having the best time of his life. And he's fucking hilarious. I want him up on the panel every week. Yeah. But anyway, that looks quite good.
We also have Late Night, starring Emma Thompson as a talk show host who's trying to stay relevant. Mindy Kaling co-starring. And I love anything Emma Thompson does.
Oh, yeah. So. Sign me up. I'll be in the cinema to watch that for sure. And then rounding out the new releases, a re-release of Rocketman. These things make me cringe, but there's a sing-along version, limited release sing-along version.
These are fun.
No.
I think
I don't want to go to a movie and it be like a karaoke. I don't know how I feel about sing-alongs. You know, karaoke in a cinema, I'm just not for it.
No, I think it's really fun. And a lot of people love Elton John's music. And it's only a limited release anyway. This is not going to be in every cinema. You have to probably have a bit of a search to find which cinema it's going to be in.
Yeah, probably. Well, will you go and see that then?
No.
Thought you loved sing-alongs.
I don't love them. I'm from the era where we used to do the sing-alongs, the Rocky Horror Picture Show sing-alongs at event cinemas on George Street. There used to be like midnight screenings where they would play Rocky Horror Picture Show and you'd sing along to it and it would be interactive and people would dance down the aisles in the costumes.
Okay, well, see, that's good because then that's a show. That's a bit different.
Yeah.
I'd go to that.
Right.
Just to be clear.
You wouldn't just sit in a cinema and sing along.
No, and old Joe Blow's tone deaf, like, you know, trying to sing Rocketman. No, not for it.
Okay. Well, that's it for this week. We had very exciting films coming up out this week.
Yeah. If you want to get high-octane action and craziness, go see Hobbs and Shaw, Fast and Furious spin-off.
Yep, as we said, it's ridiculous, but it's action-packed and really entertaining if you can switch your brain off.
A lot of sequels coming up. Marvel Phase 4 has rounded out its content lineup over the next 2 years. So, yep, I think that will do for another week.
We'll see you next week.
Thanks,
we'll talk to you next week.
We'll talk to you next week. Bye.
Bye.